Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Today we welcome back the Associate Dean and Director of UVM Extension in the university's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. It's an opportunity to hear from the director and learn about Extension's programs, events, and activities that positively impact Vermonters. It's a pleasure to introduce Roy Beckford. Roy started as Extension Director in May, and since then he's been learning about and working alongside Extension professionals throughout the state. Good afternoon, Roy, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Fran, and thanks for having me back again across the fence.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So we'll get to some specifics in just a moment, but in broad terms, what have you been focused on during your first 6 months here?
I've been focused on listening. I tell everybody that I have been, for the first 3 or 4 months, engaged in active listening because I want to know and understand the culture and dynamics of Extension as well as the culture and dynamics of the University of Vermont. So that's mainly what I've been trying to do. In addition to getting to know people, getting to know who my faculty and staff are, what their programs are about, and just doing that kind of assessment so that can help guide frame my own vision moving forward.
Excellent. And so let's touch on some of the places that you've visited and some of the people that you've met. Close to campus, you've learned about the university's Horticulture Research and Education Center in South Burlington.
Yes, and it wasn't my first stop, which is interesting. So I actually started by going across the state, but it was inevitable like that I come back to the Horticulture Research and Education Center, and I had that connection with Dr. Terry Bradshaw, who is photographed here with me. We spent a lot of time talking about what happened on the farm, the kinds of research that was going on. The apple research is one among many. And of course, also looking at the farmer education program, which happens out of this center. But Terry has been around for quite a while, and he's doing a great job, and he's making a significant impact on apple research and everything that goes into keeping Vermont at a comparative advantage in terms of this particular crop.
Fantastic. And you've also been visiting family farms, including the Knoll Farm in Fayston, which is a multifaceted farm and also has a nationally renowned retreat center.
Yes, Sarah Kleinman, who runs our 4-H youth development and farm worker program. She's pretty much a state leader on that program. Those programs invited me to a retreat there a week or so ago, and so it was a good change from Burlington. It was much cooler. It's in the mountains. It's very picturesque.
Yes.
It was a cold day when I got there. It was about 40-something degrees, but it was nonetheless really fulfilling to see what's happening there on that place, on that farm, and the kinds of amenities they have, and we were a part of that. We shared in that experience.
Right. It's a beautiful spot, and it's a great place to do intellectual things as well as get your hands dirty.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to migrant farm workers and their families, and what they're about 1,200 at least, or 1,500 of those families, what programs or services does Extension offer for those workers?
Extension provides integral service to farm workers in the state of Vermont. And as you know, Extension is a national initiative. I mean, we have Extension in every state. But in Vermont, we have a team of workers that's committed to working to educate and to support our farm workers, because the farm workers are part of us. I mean, they help produce the food that we eat. I mean, how more intimate can you get? So this team of people work, as I stated earlier, to educate, to support, and they also provide services through, for example, Bridges to Health, vaccinations during COVID. And it goes beyond that because it helps support people who may have other metabolic issues or problems. Farm workers are people too. So some of them, will come in and they'll have problems with hypertension and diabetes and all of that. Extension actually has folks like this that help to support that. In addition to this, there is a farm worker volunteer program that Extension has. If you go to our website, you'll find that and how you can actually contribute to supporting the farm workers that help us have access to foods.
Yeah, that's a really great point. They are essential, especially to our dairy farms. And yes, there are lots of ways people can also get involved with helping make sure that their lives are good here. And where does UVM Extension get the funding to do its work throughout the state and even with programs like this?
UVM Extension is unique in that we cooperative extension across the United States get their funding from the federal government, also from the state, and in many cases from counties. At UVM, we don't have counties, so we get that third leg of money from grants and contracts. And so we use that wisely, and we use it in a very, very meaningful way to support the kinds of program outreach that we need to do. So we do have funding, just to summarize, from the federal government, from the state government, and from grants and contracts.
Terrific. And a chunk of that grant funding supports the work of field researchers and specialists. One of the great ones is, of course, Heather Darby of Extension Northwest Crops and Soils team. And you went up and met with her.
Absolutely. Heather is a rock star in terms of how much she does, the kinds of research, the kinds of collaborations she does with all the universities. Interestingly, I was actually speaking to somebody from the University of Florida, all the way south, a couple of days ago, and they said, I actually worked with Heather Darby in Vermont. That's interesting. But Heather actually sources a lot of the funding that supports our research and extension programs through grants, and those grant funding monies are used to hire staff and to provide some of the resources and equipment she needs for the work. And in that regard, she really has excelled and compares very, very well to anybody else at UVM in terms of the amount of money she brings in. Now, she's not the only one in that regard. There are others like Sarah Kleinman, 4-H, who brings in a lot of money. Vern Grubinger, who is in Brattleboro, and many others that I can't name here right now. But Heather certainly is a standout.
And they do, because they're really contributing. They're really figuring out a lot of things that are very important for farm success. So it's wonderful that they bring the money in, but they do for a very good reason.
Good thing.
You also, of course, during the fair and field season, you went out and about, and you were in Addison County for a little bit.
Yes, I have tried to spend time as much as possible across site. So Addison County was certainly one of those. I had the pleasure of spending a day with Jeff Carter and Kirsten Workman down there at the fair. Largely because I wanted to get my nose dirty, get my hands dirty, judging crops and grains and all those things that I have not done a lot of in the last few years. So Jeff helped to kind of provide that opportunity for me, and that helped me to actually meet a lot of people at the fair also.
Absolutely. And to wrap up the fair season, you represented Extension at the Vermont Agricultural Hall of Fame celebration. I think that's at the Champlain Valley Fairgrounds, of course.
Yes. So if you are Extension director, and if you're a new one of the places you want to make sure you go is wherever our farmers or pioneers are being receiving recognition. So this was one place that I really needed to go. And this was an awesome place. I met a lot of people, and of course, Anson Tebetz, the Secretary of Ag,
right,
was the master of ceremony for this, forum. And he's also been a really good guiding factor behind how I got out there and met people. Certainly, he helped me interface with the great people at that who were awarded at that ceremony.
So what's a story? What's one from any of the field days or people that you met that you'd like to share with us that really struck you? Was it judging hay? Was it what was something that strikes you?
Oh, almost like arrows or darts coming at me. There are tons and tons of stories. It was great to see Jeff Carter receiving that kind of honorary type of recognition. So the Jeff Carter Crops exhibit is now what that building is known as. And I think perhaps the entire Addison County Fair should be named after Jeff Carter. Because he did relate to me that 30 years ago, on his first day on the job, that was where he went. That was what he did. He actually helped organize the fair, and he was responsible for doing all those exhibits. And so that really struck me as a really good connection, and how well someone like Jeff Carter has managed to connect to our communities that we serve.
Terrific. And as you look ahead to your next 6 months or several years, what are your goals at this point?
So I am listening, I am assessing, and what I want to do is to take all of that, fold it together, and create an environment in extension that helps us excel, succeed, and turn our products in extension into a kind of Vermont that moves forward with more strength. I want to turn our comparative advantages into competitive advantages. We're a small state with a small population, but we have a great extension service that supports the University of Vermont through applied research and other things that we do in extension. I want to make sure that we put our farming sector, our community development, our natural resources, our sea grant efforts on the map.
Okay.
We want to play a significant role in Vermont and beyond.
Excellent, Roy. And if you have questions or comment for Roy, he is open to hearing from you. You can contact the state office by calling the toll-free number on your screen. That's 866-622-2990, or you can check out the website by going to www.uvm.edu/extension. Roy Beckford, the head of Extension, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks again for having me.
And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.